All right. Welcome, you loyal listeners, to another episode of Agency Intelligence, where I give you a real agent inside a real agency, giving you the real agency intelligence and not the artificial that they try to make you believe out there. This is Cass, and I'm back with Miss Whitney Ricci. I got to tell you, I have been trying to get this wonderful woman on this podcast for a while, and she is that busy. Whitney, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Yes. So just a little background for you, for all you loyal listeners, real quick. I am invited to an event. We're just getting together some Florida agents. And since I now live in Florida, I was like considered one of the cool ones to come to that. And when I get there, I meet probably most of the people I know, but I did not know Whitney, and Whitney happened to be there. And I was like, son of a gun, started talking. Within 4 or 5 hours, I'm like, this girl's got it. This lady is cool and she knows what is going on. And learned a lot about you and with your coffee. You remember we had the coffee cup, and I think it was the same coffee.
You go right there. That I'm a disgusting.
No, I'm just
the same coffee for 3 days. I'll just keep.
That's actually that's the first thing that is the first thing that made me think to myself, this woman is like me. She is different. She thinks differently, and I just remember that from everything. But introduce yourself. Yes, tell us who you are. Start where you lived and where you are now. About 2 to 3 minutes.
Sure. So yes, I'm Whitney Ricci. I have not had any coffee today because I wake up on 10 pretty much, and it's better for everybody if my caffeine levels are slower. Now that day I was going on a long road trip, and I'm also about safety. So that's why I had the 3-day-old coffee that day. But anyways, yes, I own an agency in Jacksonville, Florida. We'll be celebrating 10 years in business this year. I started me and a laptop, my path to getting carrier access and all of that. I'd worked 7 years prior at State Farm, and I rolled up with some buddies of mine that I'd worked with at State Farm. We worked together for a few years, gave us carrier access, and allowed us the power of scale on a small level to be able to get up and going. Then a few years after that, we unwound. I rebranded as Ricci Insurance Group. We're at about 25 team members now. And I've got some little awards behind me for things like growth and being a good partner on the agency side. And so, I still identify as a scrappy scratch agent. But every once in a while, someone will introduce me and they'll say, this is Whitney. She's got a powerhouse agency in Jacksonville. And I was like, oh, I guess if they do keep giving me awards for that kind of stuff, I need to start owning that. And so in this season of life, I am trying to spend a lot of my time training my team, bringing people up in the industry. I do have a very female-dominated team, which is pretty cool and pretty unique. When it comes to recruiting, that's a thing that we get consistently from both men and women applying to be on the team, that they think that it's cool that we have our whole leadership team is female, which is pretty cool. And so, yes, as you mentioned, wow. These days I'm hard to pin down because I'm a lady of many meetings. I do lots of networking, lots of business development, a lot of advocacy for our industry, which has probably been the single most impactful thing that I kind of fell into by accident a couple of years ago when the market started going south. I really felt, I hate to sound cheesy, but a calling, but really that was kind of what it was, that if I don't speak up for my clients loudly to people that have the ability to impact change, if I'm not doing that and someone else is, am I really worthy of their business? That's one of our core values, to be worthy and make sure that we're doing the things to show up in the way that we deserve their business. So that's about me. How did I stay on time? Was I in the ballpark range?
Oh, you did fine. But I love the worthy. I love that. We are worthy of it. And also you're worthy of the accolade of understanding that, yes, you do have a powerhouse agency, right? I think I understand, and I think a lot of our loyal listeners do when you feel that way. It's like, you really stop and forget that, like, oh, wow, there was only 1 or 2 people that started this, and now we're at 25, right? And I noticed it probably around 8 to 10 people. I was like, wow, this thing's actually starting to, like, if I don't sell, we still like sell insurance, right? Like, wow, this is really pretty cool, right? It was a really cool feeling, and I can only imagine that's the way you've got to be Yeah, and having 25 people, very female dominated. That been intentional?
No, actually not at all. If anything, I mean, I joke about, are we do we need to be careful about having a white dude claim discrimination and insurance in this agency, which is just, and I am a risk manager, so I
That's funny.
actually do kind of worry about that. But no,
Uh,
it was not intentional at all. Now, there's got to be a certain amount of your vibe attracts your tribe kind of thing. And I'm
mhm.
leaning into it. But and again, we do have some men that work on our team, but it is the majority
Right.
female. And I do want to add, I say I started scratch and scrappy, and you talk to my marketing reps that knew me way back then. They love to talk about how, I mean, I was up the stairs, down the hall, around the corner, in a building that was under construction, in an office. I mean, you can't tell how large the room that I'm in right now is, but I mean, my whole agency was a room that was about this big. And Marie, who's still with me, she'll be 8 years on the team next month or 2 months. Like she was one of my first employees, and the door like hit her desk when the door opened. We had a cordless phone that when the call was for you, we would mute it and toss the phone to the person across the office. Like that was how scrappy we were. And so
That's
when
right. I love
you
it.
think of like 8 or 9 people, for us, it took us a long time to get over that hump. It was me, then it was me
Mhm.
plus one, then it was me plus two. And we hovered around that 5 or 6 mark for like 5 or 6 years. We've only in the last like 3 to 4 years really gotten in a position. And frankly, one of the biggest luxuries I feel right now about this season in business is that we can hire in bulk. We overhire a couple times a year, and we
Mhm.
plan for the fact that life is going to happen. People are going to have things where they need to move away. And frankly, not everybody's going to work out. And
Mm.
when we hire a bunch of people, we have a bench kind of, so that's okay.
Right.
The quality of life for
Right.
the team and the client experience doesn't suffer as a result.
I agree with that, Whitney. Let's stop and talk right there. There's this lie. I love these little lies. I say it just for marketing reasons. They're not lies, but it makes it dramatic. There's these lies that we get told, and one of those is we need to run this real clean, tight ship, $200,000 revenue per employee, and all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And I'm not saying it's bad. That's not what we're here to say. But I'm here to
Mm-hmm.
say that there's also another side of having that lower and actually being a little bit overstaffed. Number
Mm-hmm.
one, if you're a growth machine, you have to be almost planning that way or you're going to really
Mm-hmm.
have your staff. But even if
Right.
you're not in high growth mode, what are we benefiting from when we're up at 200 and $250,000 in revenue? No, don't get me wrong. The P&L and the balance sheet looks great. I'm
Right.
not saying that it doesn't. I
Right.
understand the logistics
Yeah.
and the economics of it. But as
Yeah.
you said there, it gives a better peace of mind, and everybody's not leaving going, Jesus, what did I get
Yeah.
accomplished today? Right?
And, and I would challenge some of those. And again, this is kind of on the other side of a hump. I've only within the last 2 years been able to do this. But I got some great advice from a client and business mentor. His name is Adam Regal. He's one of the owners of JWB Real Estate Companies. Look them up. They're a very incredible company. But when I was just starting my agency, he said the most important thing is to think about your employees, your team members, as their cost per month and not their cost per year. So when you think about adding folks and you think about adding folks a couple months earlier, it's not like you're paying that whole annual payroll in that 3 months early that you might hire them. And when you've been
Love
around
that.
long enough, and that probably these people, that not all of them are going to work out. I mean, example, I was hiring one, maybe two people, was what we needed in the beginning of this year. And I ended up hiring 6. Now, I will say one of those, like we had some unexpected turnover, like in the period when we were hiring. So I was like, okay, well, we've already got this going. So let's replace that person. We got referred somebody that was great. We went ahead and added them in there. And I mean, it was just, you come across the people, like you hire
You
them.
know,
And of those people, and specifically like in the agency support role, I hired 3 and I said to the team, statistically speaking, only 2 of them will work out. And within a month, one of them had a personal situation. She had a death in the family. She ended up moving to another city and she needed to take care and focus on family right now. Well, thank goodness we weren't then scrambling to have to try and replace her. So that's
Mm-hmm.
been a big thing. And it gets you out of when somebody, you're in your team too, because your team out of thinking that when someone leaves, oh, now we need to replace Sally. Sally's role is vacant. No, it's more like this is the department. The department is taking care of
Mm-hmm.
this need for the business, and we add people to the department as we need when we're hiring, when we're growing, and when somebody leaves, we don't necessarily replace them. We
Mm-hmm.
evaluate at the next hiring season if we have a need for that or not. And especially, I feel we always talk about how one of our secrets to success is being small, even though again we're a little bigger now, but we're still boutique. We're so nimble. So when changes come around,
Mm-hmm.
you and I know
Yeah.
you agree with me on this. We're probably going to be able to do a lot more with fewer people incrementally year over year over year. That's only going to go more and more in that direction. So I'm not talking about, hiring robots and replacing all of my employees or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. But if we can empower our people with tools that allow them to do more effectively, like we will always explore those opportunities.
I love it, Whitney. Whitney, what do you think happened 2 to 3 years ago? What happened that made you finally say, "Hey, we got over that hump," or "We're now in this point where we can overhire and realize talent and nurture it"?
Trauma. The
Come
shit
on, girl.
fan. The
That's
shit
the best shit
completely.
to learn from.
That's what happened. The shit completely hit the fan. Now this podcast has like an explicit thing, and now your subscribers are going to go down because people that filter. No, but I mean, here's the real what happened. I mean, we had a pandemic and all the stuff that goes along with that. Following that, we had the start of some staffing challenges with the whole great resignation thing. At the same time that
Mm-hmm.
the market, we're ahead of the rest of the country in Florida with this hard market thing. We've been here, so we're actually tiptoeing cautiously out of it now. But back then, all of a sudden, the job that we're hiring people to do was a much harder job. So we were just killing ourselves trying, I mean, just treading water nonstop. And I got to this point where I was like, you know what? The pain was enough. We were at a true breaking point. And I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. We went completely back to the drawing board. My VP of sales, Noelle, and I said, you and I are going to be the only people that write new business at Ricci Insurance Group. And this is after like being and having sales teams of 6 or 7 people at this point. And I'm like, nope, you and I are
Wow.
going to be the only people
Okay.
that write new business. We're going to, everything that's not actually selling, we're going to take away from us. We're going to go through our product offering and we're going to redline anything that is not profitable, that's a pain in the butt, that's, and we pre-scripted a series of, we call them the polite declines. And they say, as much as we would like to help everyone due to market challenges and staffing issues, we've had to remove this from our book of business. And we claimed back our time. And one of the big things we made the
Love it.
decision, we don't work with Citizens Property Insurance. We determined that for us, the amount of time, I know. So
Wow.
the biggest property insurance carrier in Florida, which is the one of last resort, we're not a last resort agency. We don't serve, we don't provide last resort stuff. We want the best clients who want good protection, who want to have an experience before and after a claim. We hope that if somebody doesn't have a claim their entire life, they could still have a lot of pains in our experience dealing with citizens. And so by doing that, what it did was it gifted us back all of this time. And you make a big bold move like
Hmm.
that. I think you can only do it when the pain is really that extreme, and you hope and
Wow.
you pray and you cross your fingers. But what happened was exactly like what we hoped. Our revenue didn't skip a beat at all. Not at all, not a single dip in our revenue. What we were able to replace our time with focusing
Wow.
on our best clients, serving them better, clearing out the noise. And we did that for almost 6 months. And I said, and I shouted it, 2023, world class sales team, 2023, world class sales team. And that was the first time that we hired, and we took 3 months or so to get these folks like lined up, and we started them all together. And that was our first hiring class. And we really, really poured into them. We gave them a lot more
Wow.
support with weekly one-to-ones and training and all of this kind of stuff. And did they all work out? No, but it was our best attempt at that, and a lot of them are still on the team. And so now a lot of those polite declines still stand. We still don't write some of them. Some of them we've added back on a case by case, but the team has a lot more clarity of
Mm-hmm.
who our client is, how we take care of them, and that changed everything. That changed the job. That changed what they do every day when they come in, who they're interacting with, what kind of day they're going to have. So it really was one of the most
Mm.
pivotal, positive changes that came out of one of the darkest, most painful times of the agency. So people ask like about like what I do in
Wow.
the agency, and it's funny because it changes what's whatever is needed. I haven't written. I've been instrumental in some big commercial accounts over the last year, but I haven't like written a
Mm-hmm.
policy myself in over a year. But if we were having this conversation
Mm-hmm.
at the end of 2022, which I feel like that was only about 5 minutes ago, I was writing all the stuff. So
Wow.
there's
That
no
is great.
I don't think that there is a specific roadmap that works for every agency and every season of life or of the market.
Hmm. So much to be learned there, especially loyal listeners. You probably should pop it back about 3 to 4 minutes, because at the end, I love what you kind of said here, Whitney. It's probably very hard to make that much or that big of a change unless the pain is that bad, right?
Right.
And
Hmm.
so much truth in that. And it's so weird that we're that way as humans. It's so weird that sometimes we just can't recognize it in the good to make it better. I mean, a lot of times we can with good structure and support, but I'm just saying sometimes it's like the alcoholic or something. It takes him to hit rock bottom before he finally
Hmm.
snaps out of it,
Yeah.
you know?
And the
It's
thing,
so
Jason, I think a
wild.
lot of people, and me for in a lot of areas of my life and over many years, you don't know to look for it. So I got as a result of another lesson learned on the job, we had really elevated our processes for looking at our numbers and evaluating everything. So I believe that even though we felt like it was hard, we would have just powered through. I really think we would have just powered through if we didn't have the data that we were looking at that said, for example, with Citizens, we track in our agency when we bind a policy, we want to write business that sticks. We're very strict. We put everybody through quality assurance where all their stuff gets thoroughly reviewed. And if something comes back, we track who wrote the business, what carrier it's with. We call it preventable versus not preventable. Could we have stopped that? Is it clerical or was it, did you not look through the 4 point enough? Yes. So for example, say there's vines growing on a home. That's not something that's going to be listed on the 4 point as an issue with one of the 4 points, but we expect our agents to notice that and have the conversation that the insurance company is going to have a problem with this because vines growing on home could lead to water intrusion. So anyways, we at that time were averaging in that market about 20% of the business that we were binding was coming back with some type of post-bind activity. We did for a time open up the floodgates and say, all right, welcome to the land of last resort. Buckle up, Buttercup. We got to get good at writing with Citizens because that's where we are in our market. And so it was only about 60 days that we were like full on, let's do it. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? We've just hired additional new people. Everybody is busy up to the gills. Everybody's stressed out. What is going on? How are we more busy when I've hired more people? And I pulled the stats. And at that time with Citizens, it was 4-1. Every one policy that we bound had four things that we had to
Wow.
follow up. I mean, some of that, like,
Wow.
you're not going to have the settlement statement until after closing. Like, so, you're not going to have whatever the thing was. But like, I mean, it was just crushing our team. So that made it easier to make a clinical decision about this doesn't work as much as we
And it all
thought.
started with the data. It all started with the data, as you said,
Right.
you know?
And having a habit of paying attention to, what are the driving forces? I talk a lot about our time being our biggest resource. And when we spend too much time on something, it's at the expense of something else.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. We're so much into that right now. I think also if we look at our agencies right now, we're being taught that just by rate increases, right? I've seen my staff be more open and willing to say what you've got your team to say. Like, hey, it's okay that we pass on this business, right? And it's just never been that way. But over the last, we've always preached that, but it's weird how easy it is, much easier it is right now to say, "Hey, I'm just going to let you know. I mean, we have no other options for you," right? They don't feel bad saying it because they've just been saying it so long. And this is not a good thing, but it's not a bad thing. It has kind of conditioned our team to be accepting of the fact of what the economy or what the markets are giving us is the best that we have, you know? And I think that helps you get that your team out of that citizen's mindset. They're like, we're going to be here to help people, but it's not going to be those people. But it's so crazy. You got rid of them or freed up your time, but yet still saw growth outside of the citizens market,
So
which
we
I think
call
is
that the
pretty
value
cool.
of a quick no. That the second best thing to a yes is a quick no. So if we know that we're not going to do this, we want to swiftly be able to tell the client no. We want to, I mean, and if sometimes we refer them to somebody else, but the value of a quick no is you get all of that time back to drive your ship for the business that you want to be writing.
Wow. But I'm just going to tell you right now, it's going to be the name of the podcast. And I don't name the podcast, but that's right there. The value of a quick no.
I've never actually like call, like label that, like we say that, but yeah.
But it is. I mean, it is. It's the value of a quick no. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it very much, very much. So tell me something that you want to improve in your agency. What's something that you'd like to probably, get better at, or you're working towards now?
So we're spending a lot of time right now. What comes with growth is now all of a sudden your org chart changes. When you're a smaller agency, you have typically the agency principal who's, the boss or the manager, and then they have kind of everybody under them that reports to them. And I've gone through a series of, we've called them different things, but basically like the number 2 type role, like the operational manager person. And we had 3 in a row, and they all brought different things and moved on for different reasons. But when the most recent one left, and it's been almost a year now, when she left for personal reasons, I came kind of, you come up for air, and you're like, all of a sudden, where our team is going, this doesn't make sense. We've got departments now. We really need to be evolving into kind of like a team lead type position. And we're in a unique space where I have wonderful people on my team that are great at their job. And we have some folks that are a little newer on the team that maybe do have a history of leadership experience, but we're trying to give the people that are most senior on the team training in leadership and accountability, because that's a completely different thing than being an excellent insurance agent, being able to hold other people accountable. And perfect example, my VP of sales. I mean, I lean on her for stuff because the team needs her, and she's trustworthy and wonderful and all of these things, but it would be a waste of her unique skills and ability to have her manage my sales team. She needs to be talking with clients, bringing in deals. I mean, it would be criminal to take her away from our clients and repurpose her to work with our team. It's a different skill set. So it's not that, you've been on the team the longest, now you need to be the manager. Different. Right. So we're working now. We've kind of identified a few people on the team that have potential, and we're looking at, okay, what are the areas that we need to give you training in? And so we're doing, for the first time on my agency support team, it's kind of like a peer one-to-one accountability feedback situation. And we brought in a consultant. It's a version of Traction. So I always assume that everybody in the world is read Traction, but Traction, entrepreneurial operating system, is
I have not. Yeah, I've not read Traction, but I'm very familiar with it.
Okay, so I mean, it's a version of that we're going through with the team. So it's it feels like a luxury to be able to go through this with them and get feedback from them on where the team is going. And it's really the first time that I say I'm an open book. I'm super transparent, but that doesn't mean that there's space for me to share on a regular basis where we're going, what our goals are, what the consequences are if we decide to make this decision or create this role or eliminate that role. So there are, we have 6 of us, including my executive assistant joins also. And we've been meeting every week since the beginning of the year and going through, like, these are the things, and with the end goal being where our agency is going with the number of people we're going. How do we make sure that there's accountability at every level, that there's a growth plan for everybody on the team, and that, everybody feels supported. And that looks different at 25 than it does at 7 or 8.
Hey, damn right it does. You're damn right it does, man. Sometimes that's all we're really truly doing is the word is not babysitting, but it's just managing people, helping people manage their business and professional and personal lives. I feel like sometimes that's that I'm doing. I told this to my business, and it's good things, right? I like it because there's a lot of things and a lot of resources that I'm able to provide my employees that they may not be able to provide. But it's also just making sure that we have that balance, that at the end of the day, we are here to work. We are here to make money. That is our goal here. Our goal is to put premium on the books. Our goal is to meet people, to find our customer that we've designed and find them. But man, a lot of times it is. And so one of the things that I have learned, and I'll get your thoughts on this and we can kind of wrap up, but I've learned that smart people cost a lot of money. But smart people are so valuable. Steve Jobs said, "I don't hire smart people and have them tell them what to do. I hire smart people and have them tell me what to do." And I agree with that, right? Because there's so many people that are so good in certain areas. The problem with it is, I think a lot of times as agency owners is we're always trying to find that person we could pay $50,000 to $70,000 a year to, and they're going to just somehow be this person who's going to be awesome in that position as an operations manager or as a head, whatever it could be. And it's just like, no, those people cost 6 figures plus now. That's just the way it is, and you want good people, you have to pay good money for it. And it hurts me sometimes because it doesn't hurt me, but it blows my mind, I should say, because agency owners have more money than most business owners. If you have $1 million agency revenue and you have $1 million revenue shoe store, you're making a lot more money than that shoe store owner is off of that $1 million revenue. I promise you are.
Yeah.
And so it's just.
Yeah. And I'll add to that, that for agency owners that feel like they can't afford that, like the situation that I'm in right now, again, we had a manager who left. We've not replaced her, and we're working with 2 consultants right now because could we afford to bring on a great operations manager for the team? Yes. But you know what we can't afford? To get it wrong again. It's very expensive when you get it wrong and they're not the person. So that's why we've elected to go through this process. You can get people on a fractional basis. And one of the things I found when you work with consultants, if they're good ones, I've also worked with ones I would not recommend. But when you work with vendors in that space, usually vendors don't quit. You don't have to worry about, all of the benefits and all that kind of stuff for them. You can be very direct on, this is what you've been brought in to do. This is what winning looks like. And I feel like sometimes that dynamic with the vendor can be a little bit easier to deal with or manage or make successful for somebody that may be a little bit gun shy about going all in on bringing in something.
Interesting.
And part of it also to that original advice about what does the help and the support of the person cost when you think of it monthly versus like their annual salary, and then you re-up each month that it's working.
Good call.
So that might be part of it. I am doing something else I want to share with you right now that I think that all agency owners need to hear.
Yeah, I liked.
I'm trying to have more fun, which would surprise people because, everybody would, if you meet me, you assume I'm like having fun all the time. But, this is a lot of work and it's a lot of energy that you devote to other things. So I've had 2 funny things. I just came from Muffins with Moms. This is my flowers I just got from my son, Alan. And I had a hilarious thing happen to me. I signed up for a pottery class on a whim because I was like, let's find a hobby. Like, what's a thing, to look around here. So I signed up for my husband and me to do on a date night. He ended up getting a terrible migraine and didn't want to go. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go anyway. I signed up for this. I'm trying to do this thing. So I go to this pottery class. There are 9 people total in this pottery class. And 5 of us are there and we're like getting set up. And the last 4 people walk in and I look up and in walks Trevor Lawrence the quarterback of the Jaguars. I look at the teacher and I'm like, and she's like, and I'm like, okay, be cool, everybody, be cool. And then he comes and sits down, he and his wife and their friends, and they're lovely. And I took pottery for 2 hours with Trevor Lawrence earlier this week. My kids are like,
Wow.
we need to print that picture so we can flex on our friends. So when I went to
Wow.
muffins with mom, the kids were like, I heard you know Trevor Lawrence, which was amazing. And so I say that because it's a funny story. And I also say that because you never know what's going to happen. Like when you put yourself out there and, I feel like there are 1,000 ways that couldn't have signed up for a random class. I could have not gone on the date without my husband. It was supposed to be a date. But he was resting. He didn't need me
True.
there, but I went.
That's
And
right.
when you're open to things happening, I just find that if you do that as a habit, like it's amazing the kinds of opportunities that open up for you and experiences that you
True.
can have. I did not quote as insurance, which my team cannot believe, but I'm surprised you haven't asked yet, but I will share that I do believe I'm better at pottery than Trevor Lawrence. I made 5 pots. He only completed 2. I'm just saying.
Just saying. Yeah.
We need
That's
him to
right.
keep those
That's
hands.
right.
He needs to protect those hands for the game.
What a great point though. I mean, stepping outside and doing things and you hear yeah. Yeah, I never would have went and did this, but I did this and I had the time of my life. You hear people say that so many times. Very rarely do you hear people say, "Hey, I went outside and did this outside of my
Yeah.
box." And I think that's another good remembrance of that. Wendy,
Mhm.
I really Whitney, excuse me. I appreciate you coming on here. And I mean, any last minute things you want to say before we wrap up here?
Just speaking from the future, I know that you have agents all over the country that listen to this, and I know the market has been
Mm-hmm.
tough. We have been reporting from coming out of rock bottom. We had nearly a dozen carriers go out of business in Florida in 2022, and it is a market cycle, and we are a little bit ahead. The light is at the end of the tunnel. So stay the course. We have experienced
Mm-hmm.
a bright side, a silver lining of a hard market, because there is a little bit of a thinning of the herd that happens. We did have some folks that weren't how do I say, a worthy competitor, have exited the market. So there are some positive side effects for that. And it's a lot easier to show value to clients when what you're doing is difficult than with what you're doing is easy. So hang in there. I know I see all kinds of memes about all of
Very
the
good
insurance
point.
agents being driven to drinking and all that, but there's light at the end of the tunnel coming from the future in Florida.
There is very good words. And I mean, I'll be honest. I also push back, and I just got to say, I, I think I think that everybody's situation is unique out there, and I'm not. And Whitney, I'm not speaking to you. I'm just thinking like to any loyal listener out there, because like I don't know about you, but our growth has been absolutely tremendous, and there's a lot of it has been just because of pure growth, but a lot of our revenue growth as well has been due to rate increases. And so I think there's a lot of agents out there, and it blows my mind. I mean, if you're $1 million agency, you could easily see $200,000 to $300,000 in revenue just basically off the fact that you're just renewing policies that are increasing in revenue, not
And
on
it's
the fact that that you're losing some as well. So
mhm.
I I I don't know. I think it becomes stressful. I think there's a lot more
Yeah,
quoting. I think we're getting a lot more complaints and stuff like that. But as a revenue level, everybody's
right.
revenue probably should have went up, or there's some serious problems.
I mean, it should go up for that reason, and it should go up for like this is an opportunity. So for us, that increase in revenue is how I hired these people. But
Mm-hmm.
we like the amount of work that it takes. I mean, we could talk a whole nother 2 hours about how you have to pivot your
Mm-hmm.
business model when you're dealing with thousands of non-renewals. Like that's not in our business plan to have to rewrite, reshop, coordinate repairs. All of a sudden now you're trying to write policies when the market is how many hours old is the roof? Can you get, I mean, it's that crazy, or it was. Again, we're coming out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a strategy. We had to beef up our staffing in order to respond for that. And I hate to say thank goodness, because I feel deeply the pain that these rate increases have caused our clients. There are neighbors, there
I
are
do.
family members, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we're very, very sensitive to that. And so that's kind of why we felt an obligation of, okay, here's the opportunity. This is, and we also, you know, navigated through commission cuts and that kind of thing. Again, we could talk 2 hours about all of these pivots that we've had to
Mm-hmm.
make, but it gave
I
us the
get you.
opportunity to show up, hire more people, and compete in a industry in an era when our competitors a lot of times literally stopped keeping office hours and stopped answering the phone, because the numbers said if they
Mm-hmm.
did nothing, they were still going to keep 60 to 70% of those policies because the clients couldn't get coverage elsewhere. We scooped up a
Couldn't
lot
get
of
it.
market
Yeah.
share, and we also, those clients that were of that 60 to 70% that we couldn't beat, that were with the agent that, you know, stopped answering the calls and stopped keeping office hours, we've got their information. So now that the market is lightening up, like, they're going to be calling, you know, hearing from us, and we were the
Mm-hmm.
agent that was there for them through all that did all of the advocacy stuff, that staffed up a team to make sure to be there for you and take better care of you than our competitors. That's the whole point. It's a competition. And you play to
All
win the
right.
game. Can I take credit for that quote, or no? Is that dibs on that one?
Yeah. No, you've got like 3 or 4. You've got like 3 or 4 of
You
them
play
out
to
there,
win the
Whitney.
game. What is it? Whitney Ricci, whatever. Anyway,
Whitney Ricci, appreciate you very much for coming on here. I really do. All you loyal listeners, you know what I do. I do it for you. Tell me your thoughts and tell me your ideas, and I'm going to tell the world what you have to say. This has been Jason Cass. She's Whitney, and we are out.